Do you feel so lost in life? Like nothing is going right for you? Maybe it's even the darkest time you've ever had. I can totally relate because I was there too back in 2014. I left my teaching career and I just felt so alone and I felt like a failure. I just really didn't even think that there was anything worth living for after that, even though from the outside looking in, I had it all. I had a beautiful house, I had a loving husband, I had two beautiful girls, we had nice cars, we had college degrees, we had the quote unquote white picket fence lifestyle. But there just felt like there was something missing. And so in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 reasons why I felt lost. And I hope that they help you on your journey. But make sure you keep watching because I think the 3rd reason is going to be the most surprising. The first reason I felt lost was because I was afraid of change. I literally wanted to be a teacher my entire life. And so the fact that I was giving up that dream job just felt so weird and awkward to me. And I convinced myself that I would never be able to get another job because my degrees would only allow me to teach. Granted, I had a degree in geography, so I could definitely have done something other than teach with a geography degree. But I also convinced myself that I shouldn't leave teaching because it was a stable job. I would always have job security because there's always a teacher shortage. And I was giving up summers off with my kids, I was giving up winter holidays, spring break, all of those times where I would need a babysitter if I was in a job other than teaching. And so the thought of even doing something other than teaching was absolutely terrifying to me. And because it was so terrifying to consider doing something besides teaching, I didn't even allow myself to consider what other options there would be. Like I said, I had a degree in geography. So there are so many things I could have done with that degree. I had a master's degree in applied technology and education. Again, so many things I could do with that. I could go and get a job in corporate training, so many things, curriculum development, instructional design. I could work remotely. There were so many things that I could have done, but I could not allow myself to even consider those possibilities because in my mind, I had to be an elementary school teacher in an elementary school classroom. The second reason I was afraid of change is because I was allowing other people's ideas and beliefs about what my life should look like outweigh my own. So I was miserable. I was literally dying a slow death in the classroom. I had parents who were not supportive. I had children who did not behave, administration was not supportive, and I did not feel like I was backed by them when I had challenging parents that I had to manage. It just was absolutely exhausting and draining. And I was so tired, I didn't even have the energy to take care of my own kids when I got home and manage my husband's crazy work schedule. And I really felt like a single mom, even though I was married. And so to have to manage a soul-sucking job and taking care of my own kids, I was literally miserable to the point where my husband was like, no one wants to be around you, Kim. And so that really was the eye-opening moment where I knew that I had to leave teaching. But at the same time, I had my parents' dialogue playing in the back of my mind. I went to an out-of-state college, so I graduated with a massive amount of student loan debt. And so my dad would say to me constantly, and I could still hear it to this day playing in the back of my mind, you wasted all that student loan money. What are you going to do about your student loans? You really should get back into the classroom. Oh, it will be so much better if you just found a different school. And so there was this pressure. I felt like, okay, I have to figure this out. I have to figure out a way to get back into the classroom. Meanwhile, I was ignoring the alarm bells screaming in my brain that going back to the classroom was the absolute worst possible thing that I could do. I also had dialogue from my mom playing in the back of my mind. How long can you afford to live on one income? How long until you have to go back to work and things are tight financially for you? So then I had this other dialogue playing in the back of my mind that I had to contribute financially and being a stay-at-home mom wasn't enough because I wasn't bringing in a paycheck of my own. And so there was this conflicting, message going on inside of me. Go back to a job that I was miserable at and hated and not be present and happy for my kids and be the wife and the mom that I want to be, or sacrifice myself for financial stability and for student loans. And I had convinced myself that that must be the way. I had to figure out a way to get back into the classroom because then I would get the approval of my parents and I would have that dialogue end, and I wouldn't have that pressure weighing down on me anymore. And I wouldn't have a husband who felt pressured for me to be bringing in money too, even though he never told me that. But I had started to think that he felt that way too, since my mom and my dad were both sending me that message. I thought, oh, this must be his way of telling me through them, even though he had never said that. And I don't think he ever really felt that. So that was the second reason that I was so afraid of change, but I was so lost because I was listening to what other people said I should do with my life, even though deep down in my gut, I knew going back to the classroom was not the best option for me. And the third reason, and this is probably the biggest reason I felt lost, is because I had my entire identity wrapped up in being a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher before I even had been to school. My dad tells a story about me when I was maybe 3 years old. I was in my room and I had all my stuffed animals lined up and I was playing school, and my dad thought, how does she even know how to do that? She's never even been to school, because I went to in-home daycares until I started kindergarten. So I had not been in a school setting to even know what a classroom looked like or what a teacher did with her students, but somehow innately it was in there. And so knowing that, and this is embarrassing to say, but still playing school in the basement when I was 12 years old, torturing my younger brother and his friends to be my students, it was all I had ever convinced myself I wanted to be, was a teacher. And so to lose that huge part of my identity was the biggest reason that I felt lost. Yes, there was that fear of change, and yes, there was the dialogue from my parents about needing money and wasting student loan money and wasting my degrees, but more than anything, I just thought, if I'm not a teacher, then who in the hell am I? What will I become? And I was so wrapped up in that identity of being a teacher, and I couldn't see myself as anything other than that. And so I felt like I was a failure as a stay-at-home mom because I wasn't loving that, even though, hello, that's, using my teaching degrees and being a teacher was taking care of my little girls who were toddlers at the time and giving them foundational skills and taking them out to museums and things like that, and basically being a homeschool mom. But I just couldn't see that because I thought I had to be an elementary school teacher in an elementary school classroom, and if I wasn't that, then I was no one. Because I had wrapped up my entire identity of who I was, who Kim was, as being an elementary school teacher in an elementary school classroom, someone who was gonna be a teacher until they were in their 90s and be forced to retire or die of a broken hip or, be that wrinkly old hag in the school. And when that didn't happen, it was absolutely devastating to me because I didn't want to leave teaching. I bawled hysterically the day that I put my notice in, but my husband basically gave me the ultimatum. He was like, you have got to find something else to do because you are miserable, and no one wants to be around you. And that was a hard pill to swallow because I knew I was unhappy. I knew I was miserable. I knew no one wanted to be around me because I felt like as soon as Sunday rolled around, I was this fire-breathing dragon who just lashed out at people and was just unhappy and like really a loose cannon. And so I felt almost a sense of relief that he told me it was time to quit and find something else, but also so lost because I couldn't even imagine myself being something other than an elementary school teacher. And so that was really the reason my journey began, was because I was so lost without that identity of teacher. And that was why I started to feel like I'm a failure, I'm a loser, I'm alone, I'm nobody, I'm nothing, and maybe I shouldn't even be here anymore. So I'm not sure if you can relate to any of these reasons for why you feel lost, but finding the awareness, finding the reason as why you're feeling lost is really the first step. And so if you're needing more guidance, be sure to tune into the next video because I'm going to share with you what these meanings are around feeling lost. So there's that sense of disappointing someone, there's that sense of losing your identity, there's the fear of change. And so all of these things that are bubbling under the surface are actually the real reasons that we feel lost. And so the outside stuff of feeling like we have pressure from someone or, we feel like a failure. Those are all like surface level things that there's more bubbling under the surface. So stay tuned for the next video and I'm going to share what that is. And it's something to do with shadows. So thanks so much for tuning in and be sure to hit the subscribe button and I'll see you on the next video.